Okay, so today we'll discuss about essential marketing section one, which will include chapter one and chapter two. So let's dive into chapter one, which is essential marketing principle, which we will discuss all kind of theories and models that relate to essential marketing and the foundation of it. So let's discuss the human sense, the foundations of essential marketing. So human will experience the world through five senses, right? Sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste, which will shape how we feel, think, and choose. And for business, understanding how these senses work is important because customers don't just buy products or service, they actually experience them. So today, customers are different. They will seek emotional and sensory satisfactions. And creating multi-sensory experience at every stage of the customer journey will help the customer form a strong cognition and emotional connections with the product or brand, influence their purchase decisions. And for example, imagine a young professional in Ho Chi Minh City looking for a place to relax and work outside of the office. So they choose Creamy Legend Cafe. So for info, they will search online. They will see an elegant photo of dark wood or thin filter on the website app is what they see. In store, they will smell rich coffee aroma, see premium decor, and touch a smooth ceramic cup and hear calm music. And for drinking the product. They will taste strong, sweet there, feeling the cool class and comfy chair of that place. So the customer here don't just remember that I drink coffee. They will embody the feelings of relaxation associated with the brand's sensory environment. And that is the power of sensory marketing. So the big idea here we have to remember is about embodiment theory. So our physical experience, sensations from using a product become part of what we know and feel about that product or brand in our minds and bodies. So it shapes our memory and future choice. And the marketer therefore need to take this into account to design an experience that engage all sense and creating the lasting impressions and loyalty. Next, we will discuss about the global marketing environment. So, which external factors actually shape how digital marketing work? We have here the two things: cultural value shift and digital strategy. Let's discover the cultural value shift first. So today, people value and lifestyle actually changing, and around the world, the society evolve among two dimensions, and which is from traditional value, like family, religions, to secular rational values like logic, independence. And the second evaluations is from survival value, like some basic needs of people life, to self-expression value, which they prefer personal freedoms and creativity. And also the I society trend, which encourage growing emphasis on self-fulfillment and independence, have shaped the cultural value shift, now reshaping how people want to experience the product. So how can the sensory marketing adapt to this? So brain must know how to connect not just what people need, but with who they are and how they feel and what they want to express when using the products or service. And also using the multi-sensory strategy to connect the diverse cultural and personal value worldwide. So let's take an example to make it clear about the cultural value shift, how it reshape the sensory marketing. So um, example, like Highland coffee. The context here is Vietnam now want to blend the traditional value with the rising in self-impressions of the urban youngs and individualisms. So how does actually marketing adapt to this? First is about the taste. So for traditional styles, the customer can order like a cup of coffee so that classic eye coffee, but for the self-impression styles, they can customize the sweetness strength via the app. It's about their individualism and how they like coffee to be drink. Secondly, is about size. So the traditional size here is the wooden brick core and mountains, but the self-impressions again here is the Instagrammable modern art wall. So altogether combining this will create an honorable traditional in the customer mind, like familiar taste, local aesthetics, while it's also expressing the individualisms in them, like custom drinks or photo-worthy spots. And the central brands will make customer feel like, oh, this is my choice, but it's still our coffee, our Vietnamese coffee. And that is how central marketing help a global brand respect the cultural heritage by enabling the personal feelings all through sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, the 5 sense bar. Next, we'll discuss about the digital technology. So, individualistic approach focused on how people gain the power and control through digital tools. And this will shift the power from company to the customer. So now people have easy access to information and they can share their opinion about brands and products anytime on the internet. Now people trust a real experience shared online by others more than what is promoted by brands. And customers now live and interact through a digital technology, shaping their experience, attitudes, and shopping behavior in both physical and online retail. So therefore, when people using the social media or digital text, it's becoming the part of their multi-sensory experience from seeing, hearing, or reacting emotionally. So the sensory marketing here actually shaped by this because now we can't not just marketing based on traditional ads anymore. We have to create and encourage the multi-sensory experience for customers through the digital platform. And I have here the example for this digital technology impact on social marketing. Like if a Gen Z student in Vietnam see a TikTok review on chocolate, tea, and coffee, so the video will show the drink looks like it's sight sensory, the sound of shaking cup, and the influence of facial expressions when tasting it. So this review influencer the viewer feelings and decisions to try the drink, and the brand didn't advertise the drink directly. The customer shared experience, like the influencer sharing the experience who did the marketing. And this is how central marketing works in this digital age. Next, we will discuss about the individualization lifestyle. So, as before, the global marketing environment is the external factor. So, in the internal factors, actually reshape the social marketing is about individualization. So, a society become more individualistic. People now use brand and product to express their identity, live and life and self-image, and driven by the cultural shift and the digital text. And therefore, now individualization is a new lifestyle. Let's explore the three key factors in the individualization as lifestyle, which is self-fulfillment, identity creations, and multi-sensory brand experience. First, the self-fulfillment. So self-fulfillment is strongly related to the individual quality of life and well-being. So it's the demand for a better life. So today people care more about improving their quality of life, both physically and mentally. So the first thing what to care about is about their health and well-being. So people choose what should support their health, sustainability, and lifestyle, like clean food, fitness, and eco-friendly service. Secondly, they qualify the consumptions. So now people prefer spending money on meaningful things like yoga class, organic food, instead of just cheap or unnecessary stuff. And lastly is about time use. So instead of working nonstop, many now choose to spend more time on themselves, relaxing, meeting friends, or learning new things. So, an example, a young person in Hanoi might go to Annam Gourmet to just buy organic vegetable and then attending yoga class on California Fitness, and later join a book club or cooking class. And all these activities will support that person's self-care, health, and personal growth. And that is self-fulfillment. And the key insight here for marketers like us or for sensory marketing is people now want product and service that help them live better and not just look better. And take the human sense into account to offer them the multi-sensory experience that fulfill their desire is what we should do. Secondly is identity creation. So identity creation is the process by which an individual will develop a sense of who they are, including their personal belief and social roles. So there are three things here that shape the identity creation. First is the choice of consumption and like identity tools. Uh, so brands like Nike, H&M, Apple, or Zara, or certain product or service will act as a symbolic content that make the identity creation possible for the customer, and it will also shape how the others see the brands too. Secondly, is about the personal and social. So identity creations uh, is formed both internally, like how people will see themselves, and externally, how they want others to see them. And thirdly is the difference from others. So identity creation is also about standing out through the appearance, lifestyle, or the culture. So they will draw rolling a line, the customer will rolling a line between themselves and the outside world to make them standing out. Like for example, the student in Ho Chi Minh City, they may wear a local brand Kumit to show that they are eco consciousness and they have modern taste. Or another may buy the latest iPhone. It's not just for the function of iPhone, but to express that they are tech savvy, they are in trend, they are rich. And this choice will help them build their identity among their friends, their peers, and the people around them. And the key insight here for us is intentional marketing is important for brands to understand the current trend and carry the symbolic value in the brand that match what customer want to become. Next, we will discuss about the multi-sensory experience. So multi-sensory experience is what people want to feel and experience a brand using the five senses. And this will make their shopping and brand interactions more emotional, memorable, and personal. So the first thing is that we need to know in multi-sensory experience, the sense will work together. So like brands, product, place, and retail space are not just perceived and evaluated just by one feature. It's all about the full sensory experience, look, sound, smell, feel, taste. And some sensory products actually require this very much, like brands like food or drinks or perfume, all rely heavily on the multi-sensory appeals to make the customer actually care about the brand and care about the products or service. And the key insight here is to design every brand interaction to stimulate the multiple sense, and that will help the consumer connect emotionally and remember our brand better. So now let's discuss the theoretical foundations of sensory marketing, shall we? We discuss from theory models to the marketing approach. So first is the theory and models. So now we have to explore what is sensory marketing actually. So sensory marketing is a new way of thinking in marketing. They will focus on how our five senses influence what we feel, think, behave as a consumer. So example, we don't just buy coffee for caffeine, we enjoy the smell, the warmth of the coffee and the cozy atmosphere, and sensory marketing actually care about this experience. And now let's see why the senses are so important in shaping this experience. So everything we buy and use, like product or brand service, will stimulate our sense. And these sensory inputs actually directly affect our preference, like what we like, our emotion, how we feel about the brand, and decisions what we choose to buy. So now let's explore how sensory marketing works through perceptions, behavior, in the first basic model of Krishna have developed. So Krishna have developed the model of sensory marketing that showing how the sense actually engage our mind and create the perceptions. And then it will shape our thoughts, judgment, and feelings, which is the cognitions and emotion. And therefore, from that, it will lead to the specific behavior like buying, loyalty to a brand, something like that. For example, uh, uh, example of the sensory signatures that when we see like a pink ribbon, we see it by our vision, and we will recognize that oh, this may be related to a breast cancer awareness. Or when we touch the iPod Touch, so when we touch, it will we will hear the sounds from the iPod. So the sensory signature here we will receive is we will start the music by touching the iPod. So this example will show how brain use the sense to connect with us emotionally and mentally. But why do the sensory experience from the body affects us so deeply in the mind? So let's look at the body and mind connection through the SOR model. So in the SOR model, it's the model of stimulus to organisms and response. So from the environmental psychology, the stimuli from the environment, like color or music, will affect the customer perceptions, cognitions, and emotion, and that will lead to the behavior of approaching the brand, let's say, close or buy. Uh, and the other one is avoidance, like leave or ignore the products or service. So retailer from this model need to aim for the design environment that stimulates the approach behavior. That is how the SOR model works. Next, we explore the practical framework that's showing how the sensory cues affect shopping decisions of ours. So here's the framework of Swen's the multi-sensory retailing. So this model showing how the sensory cues like music, lighting, scent will affect the emotions, effects of uh, ours. So that will make the shopper feel good. This is the first thing. It's affect our cognition, thinking of ours, like influence how the products are perceptions. Lastly is the behavior. So how it can impact what and how much will people will pay. Like for example, this model is that when we go to uh, a shop, we hear fast music like McDonald's. We go to McDonald's, we hear fast music. We actually will eating faster. Or when we go to the generic shop, we hear nice smell perfume, it will better our mood and therefore will buy more, will make more purchase. And importantly, the five cents will work together and not separately, and to create a full experience for customer and make customer buy more. Now let's discuss about the marketing approach. So marketing, we have three marketing approach here, which is the transactions marketing, relationship marketing, and the sensory one. So let's talk about the transaction first. So the transaction marketing is actually based on the 5P, the 4P, product, price, place, and promotion. And it will focus on selling goods in a single transaction. And the product will push, the producer will push the product through mass marketing, like ad or pricing. And in this marketing approach, the consumer are seen as a passive and treated as a mass market. And the goal of this approach is to attract new buyers by highlighting the product features and price. But however, the limitation of transaction marketing is that it ignores the emotions and individual needs and sensory experience of the customer. And therefore, it leads to the need of more personal and long-term customer focus, which we've raised to relational marketing. So in relational marketing, it will focus on building relationship with customer and based on two-way communication between active buyer and seller, and it used in both B2B and B2C market. The goal is to keep the customer through CRM and personalized marketing, and the customer are now involved and will be loyal over time. However, the relationship marketing actually lacked the attention to emotional and sensory experience. So the sensory marketing emerged to fill that gap. So sensory marketing actually focused on stimulating the five senses of the customer and based on the psychological and body cognition theory that actually form the experience. And they create a deep and personal experience in both physical and digital environment. And the goal here is to help the customer feel emotions, enjoyment, and connection to the brand. And actually, these three marketing approach complement each other. The transactions and relationship marketing actually build the value through vibe, through price and relationship. And the sensory marketing adds the emotional and sensory depth, helping the branding stand out. So now we move on to the roles of the parties in sensory marketing, which is the firm and the individual we will discuss. So uh, about the individual role in sensory marketing. As we see, the individual here is customer, and in sensory marketing, they will receive the customer value, receive the customer experience, and brand as image. So about the customer value, so customer aren't just in sensory marketing, customer aren't just passive buyer. They are co-create value with companies by using the products and service in a way that it supports their identity. So the company should act as a value promoter, like offering experience, information, and products that will help the individual find meaning or their identity. Next is the customer experience. So the service process company creates will always create a customer experience, whether the company plan them or not. But the intentional experience will better engage the customer in the service. So the customer value derived from the consumption experience of the actual product, and the great experience will involve both the practical products benefits like price and quality, and also the emotional sensory elements like fun, dreams, feelings that will all create an overall sensory experience. And the experience will might differ uh, from customer to customer concerning the associations, the background, emotions, and interpretations. Next, we'll discuss about the brand as image. So brand as image is built from the customer value and customer experience combining. So the process here is customer will recognize and categorizing the brand first. They will feel the brand through sensory and emotional experience. Next is to integrate the brand into their self-identity. And then they're making the brand significant to their life. And lastly is to connect the brand to create their personal attachment to the brand. So these parts explain that the brand now becoming a symbol of identity for customer, and the customer will actively shape this image of the brand with the company through the individual self-fulfillment and identity creation. In short, they use the product to actually create an image for the brand. Now, from the firm side, first is about the service process. So the firm will provide the service process, and in this, the individual will participate in the process as an active co-producer through different kinds of interactions in the process. And the company will create the value and the experience for customer by interacting with them through the people, through the environment, and the systems of the process. And the 5 cents actually help customers view the service differently, and not just based on the price or quality, but also how the service look, how it feels, and etc. So, for example, like a hotel will welcome you with relaxed music or nice scent or friendly staff, and that's all the sense experience, making the experience more memorable and beyond just a clear room for you. Next is about sensory experience. So sensory experience engage one or more of the sense to interact with the environment, product, staff in the service process, and this will impact how the customer feel, think, and remember the service or brand. So it's related to the aesthetics of brand. So the aesthetic is the output of the sensory marketing that contribute to the brand identity. So it's about the image, the feel of the brand bringing to the customer, and the experience then will contribute to the consumer value and the brand as image. And lastly is about sensory strategies. So sensory strategies is explained as the sensory cue intentional use of sensory cues in the service process to create emotional and memorable customer experience and sensations. And these are broken into the 5 strategies by firm. So first is the visual strategies using the firm. So the firm might use sight to create recognitions, emotions, or an identity. They will focus on design, color, logo, store layout, and that appeals to the eyes of the customer. Like, for example, Apple use sleek products design, minimalist store, clean white background to create a modern and premium feel for the customer. Secondly, is about the sound strategy. So they will use music, voice, sound to shape the mood or identity. And good sounds will enhance the experience, and bad sound will should be avoided for the customer. Next is the smell strategy. So the scent will affect the emotions and memory of customer. Good scent will create a welcoming space and help the customer remember the brand better. Next is the touch strategy. So in these strategies, it will engage the sense of touch through material, temperatures, or textures. And this will help the customer feels and emotionally connect with the products or place. So example, like IKEA, will let the customer test beds in by sleeping in store overnight, and which will creating a full touch-based experience for the customer. And lastly is about the taste strategy. So taste is for what we eat. It will call the inner taste, and the aesthetic choice, which is the outer taste of customer. And this taste is a highly individual thing. So it's explained why people have many different desire, needs, wants for the products and service. And by combining the food quality with other sensory cues like sensation, scent, or environment, can be used to express the brand identity of food. So lastly is we will discuss about the sensory marketing model. So basically in consumption, sensory marketing isn't just about isolating the sensations. It's about the strategically designing service interactions, the whole process to actually gain the multiple sensory cues, create the powerful and unified experience that will build the brand value and image for the customer. Now we've done with the chapter one. Next, in the chapter two, we will discuss how the brand actually works in the sensory marketing context. First is the gestalt perspective. So it's the psychological theory that say that the people don't just see parts, they will see the whole pictures. So people don't exercise things by just look at the detail alone. Instead, they will use the brain to connect and organize the parts together in the full and a meaningful experience for them. So the key here is the way parts connect or arrange matter more than the parts themselves. So the customer will don't see, smell, or hear things separately. They will feel the total experience of the process, the service process. Like for example, when you walk into the ACAR showroom, you don't just notice the bed or the lamp. You will experience the whole room. And however, and how everything will fit together in that room, like from color to design, lighting, and layout of the IKEA showroom. And therefore, do you know that the total sensory experience becoming like a mental image in the customer mind about brands. So this image will live in the memory and feelings of customer, and even if the customer don't consciously realize it. For example, like after you visit again, walking through the cozy showroom, when thinking again about IKEA, the brand will naturally form an image of smart, cozy, affordable home idea of IKEA. So in this context, the brand of us will be discussed as a black box when it's come to understanding how individuals perceive and experience the environment and the outside world of them. So next, we will discuss how the brain is performed as a black box. First is about consciousness and unconsciousness. So the brain actually work in both conscious and unconscious process, and most of the work is actually related to the unconscious process. And these unconscious processes are important for individual in shaping the self-fulfillment, their identity creations, and their multisensory brain experience. And to better understand how the brain works in this process, we need to know about the structures of the black box. So let's discuss about the structure of the brain. So the brain is states as a three brain. So the human brain will consist of three different types, which is the cerebrum, the limbic system, and the reptile brain. So they will work together to influence how we think, feel, and behave, especially in marketing. So let's discover the function of each part. First is the cerebrums. So the cerebrums is the biggest and smallest part of the brain. It will help with thinking, language, learning, decision making. And the functions of the cerebrums is mostly conscious process, which is located in this part. And actually, the cerebrums uh, each will have two sides. This we'll call as a hemisphere. So the left side is responsible for the logic, language, and math, and the right side is more sensitive, creative, emotions, and visuals. When each hemisphere has four loops: the frontal, the parietal, the temporal, and occipital loop. And actually, the two hemispheres will communicate and complement each other by using different associated pathways like several nerve fibers to actually connect the two sides of the brain. For example, if we are choosing between two smartphones, and when we compare the price and the features, we're actually using the logic and analysis. This is when the left hemisphere is at work. And you also like one phone better because it's sleek design and feel premium, then is when the right hemisphere respond to visuals and emotional appeals of the phone. About the uh, limbic system. So the limbic system is actually the emotional center of the brain. So this will control the feelings, the memory, and motivations. And it will help design which sensory experience are important based on the past experience of the customer. And the limbic system actually consists of the amygdala, which handle emotional reaction like fear, love, or happiness. The hippocampus will store and recall memory, and the hypothalamus will regulate bodily needs like hunger, sex, or stress. So next is we will discuss about the reptile brain. So the reptile brain will contain the cerebrum and the brain stem. So this will control the instincts, survival, and automatic body functions like breathing, heartbeat, and reflex. And it will activate based on the visual cues and gut feelings. And the reptile brain actually will make the brain prefer image over words and will prefer experience over facts. And here we have the cerebrum's role will be control the body movements like balance, muscle coordinations, allow us to work, grab items, or turn head, and about the brainstem role, we were controlling and regulating the individual vital reflex like consciousness and body temperature, heart rate, something like that. Next, we will discuss about the locations of sense. So actually, the cerebrums, the biggest part of the brain to handle all the sensory information. So actually, the cerebrum is in charge of receiving and processing all the sensory data from the five senses, and they will transform it into the conscious perceptions. and then it will form the conscious actions and behavior of the customer. And it will split into different areas, and some will control the movement, they call the motor, or some will process the sense, which is the sensory area. So let's discuss about sense and the brain, shall we? So the first thing is about sensory input and perceptions. So they say that the five main senses will give the input for the sensory perception. So when you receive information from the world through the five senses, uh, these input will affect how we think, how we feel, and how we act. And the perceptions here will act as a brain's interpretations of the input. So perception is what the brain thinks the sense means, and different people may receive the same input differently. So, for example, two people may taste the same food. One will say, "Oh, it's yummy," and the other will say, "Oh, it's too salty." And that means that the same input is the food, but they have a different perceptions about the food. Let's discuss about the perceptual process. So, the perceptual process is a step-by-step process from the stimuli of what we sense. These are the things that will triggers our sense to the sensory receptors. So the sensory receptor is what where we sense our sense detect the stimuli. Uh, and next, it will move to the attention part, which is what we will focus on. So our all thing you sense, the brain will only pay attention to a few, and what you focus on depends on the needs and desire and mood of the customer. Next is the interpretation. So uh, in this part, the brain will give the meaning to what we sense, and in this step will influenced by the memory, the culture, the mood, and experience of that person. And lastly is the response, which leads to the perceptions. So based on how we interpret it, or we will react it in a certain way. So this reaction will form our personal perceptions of the situations, the product, or brain. And this process, we all go through this process, but because of our past experience, feelings, needs, therefore make it different for each person. And maybe if they perceive the same thing, mm, the process of them will always be different. Next is the memories of brain. So our memory have three parts that work together to help us understand, store, and use the information. It's the sensory memory, the short-term memory, and long-term memory. So let's discuss about the sensory memory. So sensory memory is the first step where the information from the five senses is just briefly stored just for a few seconds, and this will act as a filter that holds the sensory input until our brain decides what is important enough to keep in our brain. And if the input is emotionally strong, it will likely to stay longer. And actually, each person will have an absolute sensory threshold. So if the input is too weak, like just a very faint smell, they might not even notice the scent. And people will also pay attention to what match their interest, which is the perceptual alertness, and ignore what doesn't, which is the perceptual defense. Next is about the short-term memory. So the short-term memory, when the sensory information goes from the sensory memory to the short-term memory, it will store selected sensory information temporarily for a few seconds to minutes. So therefore, we will use it for thinking, learning, and solving the problems in a conscious way. For example, if a friend tell us about the Wi-Fi password, like copy 2024, we will repeat it mentally in our mind, and that will keep in our short-term memory until we enter it on our phone, and then later we'll forget about it completely. Some of the theory about short-term memory here is we need to discuss is the chunking. So our brain actually group related info into chunks to make it easier to remember. And uh, the zero position effect will state that we just remember the first and the last item in like a list better than the one in the middle. And however, the short-term memory has a limited storage capability, which will differentiate it from the long-term memory. So everyone will have a different short-term memory capacity. So some will remember more, some will remember less. Lastly is the long-term memory. So long-term memory has unlimited space. It will store information, experience permanently, and recall whenever we need. So there are two types of long-term memory with a Episodic memory, which is the memory from personal events like our birthday last year or uh, our mom and dad's anniversary day. And the second one is the semantic memory, which is the facts and general knowledge of us. For example, we know that Paris is the capital of France. And actually, there will be the associations, uh, the new information will link with the old information in our mind. So this will create a mental network that shape how we think, how we judge and make decisions. So, for example, of long-term memory, you will remember the jingle of Coca-Cola ads when you saw it last Christmas. It will be the episodic memory of ours, and we will know that okay, Coca-Cola is a soft drink. That will be the semantic memory, and therefore, combining the two kind of long-term memory when we're shopping, this will influence our decision to whether to buy Coca-Cola or not. So let's take an example to fully understand how the three uh, memory actually working together. So the example is to buy a perfume at mall. So first thing first is the sensory memory. You will smell like a nice perfume, seeing a pretty bottle and hear soft music. So this will keep in the sensory memory. Your brain will notice this for just a few seconds. And then when we stop, read the perfume name, internal plume, and think it's a good gift. So we remember it for just a few seconds, which is keep in our short-term memory, and then later, uh, days later, we see it online and remember the nice smell and the moment when we saw it, and therefore it's turned into long-term memory, and therefore we decide to buy it. So it's the simple uh, ex- uh, example. Next is about brain gender. So is there any difference between the brain of male or brain of female? So let's discuss about this part. First thing first is about the genetic code. So the genetic code is the biological code of our brain when we first born. So the genes and hormones is actually the things that will shape the brain gender. So before birth, a hormone like testosterone or uh, estrogens actually shape the brain gender. The hormone level is actually cause the brain difference. So more or less hormone will difference the brain structures for males and females. And also the dopamine will add more difference. So the dopamine will act as a neurotransmitter and this affects how male and female brains work. And therefore it will lead to the visible task performance difference between males and females. So the brain difference affect the body look and how tasks between males and females are done. So let's explore the difference in tasks between male and females in the next part, mm, which we will discuss about the organization's difference of the two. So about the brain size, male brains is 9 to 12% larger than a female brain, and mostly because men usually have bigger bodies. Secondly, is about the language center locations. So men mostly use the left brain for language, while women will use both sides of the brain. So this will lead to the language strength of girls. They will learn more words earlier. They will have better vocabulary and expressions than boys. But men, they may be better in specific areas like word puzzles. Next is about the mental rotations. So men are better at visualizing objects from different angles, unlike women. Um, Lastly is about social and emotional skill. So because female brains has more developed and intertwined communication between the left and the right sides of the brain, so the women here are generally better at expressing emotions and understanding the other feelings. So let's discuss about the emotional and sensory difference between males and females. So first thing is about thinking style. So women are more empathic. They care about feelings, and but men care more about systematic. They focus on the rules and logic. Secondly, is the relationship preference. So women actually value emotional connections and eye contact. They love face-to-face talking, but men, however, they prefer less direct and more distant communications like texting or emailing. And by uh, next one is about reading emotions. So women are better at reading body language and facial expressions, which showing higher emotional intelligence in women. Uh, about the visual sense, so women actually have a stronger visual memory, better night visions, and remember color and visual detail better. Um, And for hearing and smell, women are more sensitive to sound. Music will affect their brain differently, and women can also detect and recognize the smell better than men too. Lastly is about touch and pain. So women are more sensitive to touch, and they will feel the pain more intensely, both physically and emotionally. Lastly is about the difference in purchasing and consumption. So um, men's and women actually difference in the shopping behavior of them. So the first thing is the decision making in shopping of them is different because men often make a quick and irrational decisions based on just on brands, but women they want more information and want to compare the options first before they choose to buy something. And that, that will lead to the shopping behavior because women will take more time in store to actually exploring the options, while men will rush and want to leave the store quickly, like the image I've shown you uh, next to it. So because men want to leave quickly, so it will be easier to convince them to buy fast. Lastly is the gender role in decision making. So men will focus on practical results, which mean the instrumental, and women, however, will focus on the emotions and relationship, which means the expressive factors. For example, when buying a family car, a man may just care about the engine power, but women they focus on the safety and comfortable of the family. I'll move to the last part about the neuromarketing. Neuromarketing actually is the study of how brains react, often without us knowing, to the product, ads, or brand, and which then impacts our product choice and purchase decisions. So, for example, a person may see a soda ads and feel happy, but they didn't know why. And neuromarketing actually born to study what caused that feeling of the customer. So it will use some techniques to look at our brains receive and process things we see, hear, smell, touch, or taste in a marketing context. And the neuromarketing study how emotional and social cues will push the people to choose certain products. And the modern neuromarketing will use the tools like brain scan to visualize what's happening in the brain. And it's unlike the old method of just asking the questions of how people feel. So this will make the help the marketer see the real impacts of the ads or the packaging of them, and not just based on what people say. It's might just bias. We move to the neuropsychological technique. So, neuromarketing tools we use like EEG, MEG, or fMRI to understand how the brain reacts and to products or ads. So now we discuss the three type method that neuromarketing use. First is the EEG method. So it will measure the brain wave like electrical activities when you see or hear things. So the pros here is that the this is fast and can handle record brain activity thousands of times per second. But the cons here is that it can show exactly brain, uh, where in the brain the reaction happens. So then we move to the MEG method, which simply measure the magnetic fields created by the brain activities. And this method will be more accurate at locating the brain reactions. However, it can't scan the deep brain area, only on the surface of the brain. And lastly, it leads to the fMRI uh, method, which we use a scanner to detect the blood flow and oceans in the brain, which showing which parts are active. And the process is in high detail and show where and how the brain reacts emotionally and cognitively. But the cons here is that it has less slower and more expensive methods to, compared to the two other options. Okay, so in the last part, we will discuss about the benefits and drawback of neuromarketing. So the benefits here is it will help us understand the real emotions and thoughts. So it will help marketers see how people really feel about the products or brand deep inside the brain, not just what people say. And secondly, it reviews the brand reactions to scents. So neuromarketing show how people react to the sound, the color, smell, etc. more accurate than just a survey. And next, they are more accurate than the traditional methods. So it will give a clearer insight than just asking questions or using focus group interviews. And lastly, it will help the brain improve communications. Company can just adjust the ads and packaging to trigger a strong emotional and sensory response for the brain. But however, the drawbacks here is the risk of manipulation. So some worry the company might secretly use brand knowledge to trick the people into buying more. And it will lead to the ethical concern because using brand data without consent can evade the personal uh, privacy. And lastly is they're concerned about the overconsumption because the use of neuromarketing can encourage people to buy more through brand target ads, and which may increase the waste or the harm of the environment. And that is also the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening to the section one of sensory marketing.